I hope you'll be able to hear me. I'm in a location where there's quite a little bit of noise, and I don't think it's going to change much no matter where I move to. I'll just have to trust that my voice is closer to the phone than anyone who's making a lot of noise further away. All right. So Lawrence Cohen, in the book called The Opposite of Worry, talks about separation anxiety. This is a few different points. There's a skill to be able to tell between what's familiar and what's unfamiliar. There's also a skill to be able to convey that it was too much separation without then responding. Like when we're able to miss someone without punishing them for leaving, means we don't have to ignore, hide, fight, or be sad. And patience, affection, love, they can help us carry through anxiety bursts so it doesn't continue into a prolonged period of distress. Distress often has the word stress in it, so thinking about distress versus de-stress. So neglect, abuse, or great loss, I don't mean to speak so casually about it, but leads to difficulties in de-stressing. So anxious thoughts can drown out gentleness, safety, and comfort, landing us in distress. When it can take thousands and thousands of times of meeting our own needs to realize we can count on ourselves as we learn to cope with the upsets, which are short separations or mild feelings of danger, and we start to internalize a nurturing and calming parental figure. If we didn't have it on the outside, we do it for ourselves inside. And we can also use something called transitional objects. These are from the real life warmth and safety of a caregiver to a sense of security that's inside and soothes us and gives us confidence. You might want to think of someone having a security blanket, a pacifier, or something that we could resource. It doesn't have to be a physical object, or it could be an idea object. And also this idea of proximity seeking, which is like a desperate clinging, feeling like holding on for dear life. And when kids do that, or when they're hanging on the foot, or they won't leave you alone, the other, whoever, the parent or the caregiver or the partner, if we're doing this as an adult or a friend or whoever, can get annoyed, and the clinger feels rejected and hangs on even tighter, increasing their agitation and their terror about their aloneness. And to punish because they deserve it, forgets that the acting out originally came from feeling disconnected, and now the impending further division can cause even more panic. So as we look at this, we can think, what kind of voice do I want on my shoulder? Then we have from Sholom Schochet, actually more from Lawrence Cohen. These are strategies for coping with trauma. And this is from the book The Opposite of Worry. So we have empathy and understanding, even if it doesn't seem so traumatic. Listening. So empathy and understanding can be for something that the other person may be sharing that it seems terrible, but to us it doesn't really seem that bad. So also listening. And again, strategies for coping can be how we do for ourselves, or others do for us, or we do for others. So empathy and understand. And this is also how to heal from trauma, because trauma happens when there's no support. So empathy and understanding, listening. Traumatized people may need to tell, draw, or act out the story, and sometimes over and over and over. Filling or overfilling the need for security. This might include more physical contact, could be during bedtime and sleep, cuddling for children, nightlights, security blanket even for adults, and patience, because there's no set timeline for recovery from trauma. Prayer and spirituality, self-talk, special time with trusted people, taking time to rebuild the trust with a commitment to honesty. And before I continue, I just want to say the difference before we have from separation anxiety is this, as we mentioned, neglect, abuse, or great loss, or even a trauma can cause it so that someone has a worse separation anxiety. So this idea of dealing with our own feelings and reactions to the event, whether it's guilt, horror, fear, anger, in order to be able to support the other, but in terms of the other, taking time to rebuild trust with a commitment to honesty. Being honest with ourselves, being honest to others. So special time with trusted people can sometimes not be the parent or the caregiver, but just people who feel safe. And when we respect limits and don't force someone else past the point of being flooded with anxiety. Another thing is games. It says that being playful is the opposite of trauma. So this is not where we say safety is the opposite of trauma, but play. Play is when we're acting things out. You might find kids acting out a lot of things that would seem alarming if you didn't recognize they're actually acting out their trauma. It's very normal and healthy. They play hide and seek, or others that playfully reenact the trauma, but this time it has a happy ending. And we can. I want to continue with dreams. But before I do so, inflexibility from Lawrence Cohen, and the opposite of worry is we can think about where we're not being flexible. And in dreams, all the rules become suspended, right? Dreams are a great way for us to learn about, it's actually a way our psyche, which is self-regulating. I've heard from a lot of psychologists, the psyche is self-regulating, which means like the way the organism is, the psyche will balance out. So sometimes we'll have disturbing things come out in the dreams, but they're supposed to, or we'll get messages, or we'll get support, or we'll have someone who's no longer in the physical world. And so we're getting deeper and deeper, right, into this. But first, I want to share a few things. So inflexibility from Lawrence Cohen is perfectionism, indecisiveness, procrastination, rigid adherence to routine and expectations, and reluctance to try new things. And when it comes to danger, in the Torah, I'm going to share a few things from the Talmud here. So in Chulin 10a, it says danger is more severe than prohibition. So when we're in the case of danger, it's more strict regarding danger, to not be in danger, to not put oneself in danger, than keeping in line with the prohibitions. So this is why sometimes people can break the Sabbath or eat not kosher in order to save a life. And when we have the woman who cheated on her husband, and she was in Sota 8b, which is another part of the Talmud, it says the woman who either was alone with someone who her husband didn't want, she embarrassed him in public in some way because he has to go through with all this. It says that her measure, where she's either exposed or she has to drink a liquid, and then it causes her pain inside. If she had done this action, if she was innocent, she would go home and have be extra fertile and have children with her husband. It's basically if she was alone with someone he told her not to. So it says that she's actually measured with what she measured. And in terms of the Torah perspective, we would say that we have the intellect, which is called chachma. This is knowledge. Then we have emotions, which are feelings. These are like our midos. And chachma could also, you have bina, you have das. These are different elements of the intellect. And then we have machshava, which is thoughts. It's thinking. It's a little different. We have doing, which is maisa, which is action. And so we have thoughts, feelings. We have the intellect. It's the feelings or emotions. Then we have the thinking, the thoughts. These are like beliefs, kind of. And then we have dibor, which is speaking. And then we have maisa. So this is the order. And we can work through these for anxiety, for strategy of coping with trauma, for worry, for inflexibility. And I want to talk about dreams now. This is compiled by Sholom Schochet. Just random. So Rabbi Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, who passed away at 39 years old, in Derech Hashem, says the Creator, may He be blessed, also embedded into it that the higher spirit that we mentioned slightly removes itself at this time from its physical connections at this time. So portions of itself, down to the essence, arise and separate from the body, and only one part, which is the spirit, remains with the lower spirit. Let's pause. We're talking about here separation. Now, if we don't have separation anxiety from our source of life, we wouldn't have separation anxiety from anyone. The reason people get separation anxiety is they literally associate their life force with their parents, because the parent is the life giver, is the caregiver. So now we're starting to see that as an adult, the deeper healing comes from being our own, healing the separation anxiety from our spirit and our body, our soul and our body. Continuing, and behold, the separated portions float according to what is allowed to them, and encounter and interact with spiritual entities, whether with supervisors of nature, or with angels of prophetic reception, or with demons, or with, hold on, it's very loud. Let me move a little, there's some noise. People are talking. So continuing now with, yes, so we said, Behold, the separated portions float according to what's allowed to them and encounter and interact with spiritual entities, whether the supervisors of nature, angels of prophetic reception, or with demons, according to what comes to it from one of the various causes. Remember, it's kind of like the idea of the sota being measured with what she measured. Sometimes the content that it grasps is drawn down and unfolds to the lower spirit, such that an image is aroused and creates content according to its ways. Sounds a lot like what we just talked about, that we have, our intellect and our feelings, our thinking, our talking, and then our doing. We act it out, right? So this is happening in the dream world. Yet, it's possible the content that it grasped to be true or false due to the intermediaries through which it grasped it, and this content itself is drawn down to the imagination. Sometimes it's conceived of with great confusion and much jumbling with the empty images that are drawn from vapors. Though sometimes it's with great clarity, and the information and foreknowledge about what will happen to man in the future can reach him in these ways. And what does that sound like? That sounds like anxiety. We're so sure we know what's going to happen. We're so inflexible about it. We are unable to cope, right? In Barachot 55b, Rabbi Bena'ah says, all dreams follow the mouth of the interpreter. What does that mean? That means you talk to someone about it, they can interpret it for you. It sounds a lot like trauma, right? Because basically when you have a difficult dream, in Zecharia 10:2 it says, and dreams, that was from Barachot 55b, right, Talmud. And in Sanhedrin 30a it says, master of the dream is someone who's in the dream, someone who appears to you in a dream, right? And we would say someone who could appear to us in this dream of the trauma, where nothing makes sense, everything is turned upside down, and we have no idea how to conclude with it. We need to talk about it with someone who interprets it for us, and we could reconstruct with the floor that was taken out from under us. We don't go into survival mode and clinging to some rule. We want to heal. We want to stay in the truth. So in Numbers 12:6 or Bamidbar it says, and God said, hear these my words. When prophets of Hashem arise among you, I make myself known to them in a vision. I speak with them in a dream. Zecharia 10:2, Zachariah, and dreamers speak lies and console with illusion. Barachot 55b. Rabbi Shmuel ben Nachmani said that Rabbi Yonatan said, a person is shown in his dream only the thoughts of his heart when he was awake. Barachos 57b. Sleep is a 60th of death, and a dream is a 60th of prophecy. Nedarim 8b. Just as this is Talmudic sources, the last few. Just as it is important for the grain to grow without straw, it's impossible. Just as it's impossible for the grain to grow without the straw, it's impossible for the dream to dream without idle matter. So some of it's going to be not true. The meaningfulness of a dream is dependent on 1, the source of the dream, 2, how the dream gets interpreted, 3, if we are in a position to interpret the dream, and 4, what the dreamer thought about during the day, and 5, the dreamer's spiritual stature. So I'm going to stop here and look forward to sharing with you tomorrow, God willing. All right, bye.